This podcast is part of the It Was a Thing on TV podcast network.
Am I really so bad? Am I really so frightening? You've talked to me? You've confided in me? Have I tried to hurt you? It isn't me you're afraid of. You understand me. What you're afraid of is the unknown. Don't be afraid.
But I am afraid.
The running's over. It's time to rest.
Rest in peace to one of the all-time legends in Hollywood history, Robert Redford.
An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Now, Shotty LaRue from my son's favorite show on CBS, which was just picked up again, Frank's Place.
Episode number 582, Submission 2494, Rollout. Rollout aired on CBS from October 5th of 1973 to January 4th of 1974 for 12 episodes. Gentlemen, to start this episode, we need to go back to 1970. Specifically, there was a little movie that came out called MASH. It did pretty well in the box office. Became a favorite of many people. Made Robert Altman a star in terms of directing. But also, as we've mentioned in the past, the first F-bomb in cinematic history happened in MASH. And who did that F-bomb?
John Shuck.
Aw, Shuck, he swore. And it's true. And I've actually seen the MASH movie probably in the last 9 months to a year. And there's a football scene, and there's John Shuck shucking around the F-bomb. But beyond that, MASH the movie, give it 2 years, and it became one of the biggest TV shows in history. Move forward to 1973, and CBS, which aired MASH, said, hey, there's this other show that we're going to try, which is sort of like MASH, but not. Yes, it was about the army, but that's where the similarities end. It was not about the Korean War, but rather it was about World War II, specifically France in World War II. And instead of the 407th, the company was the fictional 50/50th Quartermaster Truck Company of the U.S. Third Army's Red Ball Express. But also, this cast was, we'll say, more diverse. More diverse in the sense that almost all of the staff of the 50/50th was African American. So, CBS had MASH, and they had this show coming out. They're looking at 2 victories. MASH is like the biggest show on TV, not named All in the Family, maybe a couple of other shows, Mary Tyler Moore. But you've got this other show, and it's going to be a hit because it's just like MASH, except it's not MASH. Again, it's not in Korea. It's in France in World War II. But it's kind of MASH adjacent.
Okay, Chica has something to say.
Okay, you mentioned that there was a predominantly African-American cast on this show, right? There's actually historical precedent for this because the Red Ball Express was comprised mostly of African-American soldiers.
That's a little tidbit there, Chico. Thanks for adding that. Now that we know what the background of the series is, and it's a comedy, so it's just like MASH. It's not a serious war drama. It's not like, let's say, Baba Black Sheep or Combat or anything like that. It is a lighthearted comedy about war. In whatever way war can be a lighthearted comedy. Let's talk about who is in the 50/50th. And we'll start with the main character, Corporal Sweet Williams, who is played by Stu Gillum. Or Gilliam. I heard on a couple of opens of Match Game 73 earlier today, his name pronounces Gillum, even though it's spelled Gilliam, like Armand Gilliam. He was a reasonably popular comedian back in the 60s and 70s. And as I said, he did Match Game. He did Celebrity Bowling, Merv Griffin Show a number of times, Hollywood Squares, 61 episodes between 1968 and 1971. He definitely made the rounds, but in terms of non-talk shows, non-games, where you might know him from best, man, this isn't even a where you might know him best from, so we'll take this very lightly. On two different Harlem Globetrotters cartoons, he voiced Curly Neal. I should say two different series. Plus also he voiced Curly Neal in the new Scooby-Doo movies. I'm shocked. They couldn't get Curly Neal to do his own voice? Apparently not. But yeah, he was on Harlem Globetrotters from 1970 to 71, and I mentioned the new Scooby-Doo movies, and then he did the Super Globetrotters in 1979. Boy, that's sort of like the history of Password. You have regular Password, and then later you've got Super Password. Well, you've got the regular Globetrotters, and now you've got the Super Globetrotters in 1979. But also for a brief period of time, he was a regular on Laugh-In. Third season. Only 5 episodes, though, interestingly enough. But we'll talk more about Mr. Gillum a little bit later, because something happened during the course of this TV show. And it's been brought up, at least on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, on occasion. Stick around for that. This is going to be one of those memorable moments. Playing Private First Class Jed Brooks is Hilly Hicks. Really, outside of this, he didn't have much of a career. He voiced Brock on a Godzilla series in 1978 and 79, 26 episodes. But other than that, it's primarily an episode here, 2 episodes there, and then you got 12 for rollout. He did 4 episodes of the He did 4 episodes of the Mr. Black Show back in 1969 to 1971. I think I got that right. I corrected myself in time. But he made appearances, again, on a number of TV shows, but just 1 or 2 episodes. Playing Captain Rocco Calvelli is Val Bisolio. That's a nice Italian name for you. He played Danny Tovo on 138 episodes of Quincy. Quincy doesn't get enough love around these parts, I don't think. But we're going to talk about somebody who was on Quincy in a little bit. Stay tuned for that. It's not going to be as good as what we're going to talk about regarding Stu Gillum, but stick around. Playing Lieutenant Robert W. Chapman. Oh, Greg, I think you might lose it for this one.
Oh, I've already seen the cast list. I know.
Oh, darn it. Ed Begley Jr.
Yes.
And this must have been like really early Ed Begley Jr. because I think his first role, at least on IMDb, I think it was like 1969. Okay, 1969. Oh, now you do it. No, actually, IMDb says he did an episode of My Three Sons back in 1967. But he did, actually, 1971 was like a very busy year for him. Again, an episode here, an episode there. Real fast, some of the stuff he did. He was on Adam 12, one of my personal favorite shows to watch on MeTV every morning. The FBI, Nanny and the Professor. He did an episode of Mannix in 1972. But then I remember seeing him on, or not seeing him, but I remember hearing his voice on an early episode of Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. He was like some sort of like hippie sunbather who refused to put on clothing. He sort of treated the beach that the family was at like a nudist beach. And if you've ever seen Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, the mother and the father, they get very uptight. They don't understand how the young kids back in the early 70s, how they're just rebels and they want to do whatever they want to do. But of course, we know Ed Begley from primarily like St. Elsewhere, but he's been on like everything in the last, 55 years at this point almost. Playing Wheels in this series. Another person where if you give him 2 years, he's going to have the role of a lifetime. Talking about Garrett Morris, the same Garrett Morris who is one of the original Not Ready for Primetime players on SNL. And again, he's done so much more than that. He was the boss of the Two Broke Girls on Two Broke Girls, I do believe. He was the manager of the restaurant they worked at.
Oh, hold on, Mike. Let's just say this is not going to be the last time this month we're going to be talking about Garrett Morris.
Okay, I like the Keith Morrison there. I know where you're going with that, I do believe.
But let's not forget. Now, I don't remember what episode it was, but Chica, I think I mentioned when we talked about Garrett Morris one time how he was an Ant-Man. And it's like, I didn't know why he was an Ant-Man for some reason, but I found out, okay, this is the reason why he was an Ant-Man. Because he played Ant-Man in the sketch on SNL. That's the joke.
Yeah, I thought you knew that. I thought that was just common knowledge. Everybody knows that Garrett Morris played Ant-Man on SNL.
Yeah, but let's be honest. It was like 1979. Who the hell knew who Ant-Man was?
That is true. This is before Paul Rudd put down the controller and picked up some Pym particles.
Yeah, right after he was done watching Mac and Me.
Do we have to put it in here?
Sure, let's play it. It never stops being funny seeing that kid get down the freaking cliff with the wheelchair. Look, I know it's horrible. Considering
not as horrible as the joke you told last week, Greg.
Wait, what joke did I tell last week?
No, we're not gonna repeat.
Oh, no. We're repeating that because
okay.
No, hold on. Dead serious. I was listening to the episode.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, now you remember. Right.
I'm out.
Okay.
That is my dad's favorite joke. I'm just repeating what my dad said. Don't blame me. Blame my dad.
But it's a classic joke, though. I mean, I've heard of it in the past, and I sort of saw it coming from like a mile away when I was listening to the podcast, and you guys were talking about Natalie Wood, and Greg says, "Hey, I got a joke," which is one of my dad's favorites. And I'm like, oh, shit. He's going to do the Natalie Wood floating joke. What's the one wood that doesn't sink? It's like, oh, Greg, don't do it. And he did it, and I'm like, oh. I gotta have
one
a
joke that doesn't
conversation.
sink. If she didn't sink, she'd still be alive. Silly.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The one, whatever. The wood that sinks to the bottom, or what, or that doesn't float. Oh my gosh. Hey, that would have been a great episode of Will It Float on Letterman. Let's throw Natalie Wood in the pool and see if she floats. Will it float? Will it float? Will it? You guys aren't singing along with me?
Will it float? Will it float? Will it float? Will it float? Will it float?
And we're gonna have to have like Grinder Girl and whoever the other one that was
Hula Hoop Girl.
Hula Hoop Girl. There you go. We need to have them like throw Natalie Wood into the pool. Boy, that's mean. Natalie Wood's been deceased for like 45 years, and we're just treating her like some sort of punchline. Just like Greg's dad did that one time. No, never mind. Getting back to the episode proper here. Playing Sergeant B.J. Bryant is Mel Stewart. Mel Stewart, he played Billy Melrose on Scarecrow and Mrs. King. 88 episodes. But also he played Marvin Decker on Tabitha. Hey, that may be a show that we need to cover one day, Tabitha.
Yeah, of course it has Lisa Hartman in it. Of course we're going to cover it.
Among other people. It's got Robert Urich, too. Hey. Wait, this is Robert Urich, like right around the time he was on Soap, because Tabitha would have been 77, 78, and Soap started in 77. So I wonder if he split time between the two shows. When he was the tennis pro on Soap and when he was on Tabitha. But also, there may be a little story about Mel Stewart coming up as well. It's interesting what you find out when you do research for a show. Mentioning a couple more names in the cast. Playing High Strung, that's his name, and I'm sure that's on his birth certificate. High Strung is Teddy Wilson. Where you might know the name Teddy Wilson, he was Earl Chambers on That's My Mama, 38 episodes. One of the good short-lived shows back in the mid-70s. I love That's My Mama. I like the first theme song better than the second theme song. Just saying. Sorry, I just don't like That's My Mama. No. Give me that that sort of soul music with no lyrics. Oh, wait a second. The fifth to last role that Teddy Wilson ever had, he was on an episode of Wings in 1991, Greg.
Oh, I love Wings.
Really?
Yeah.
What could be the reason for that, Greg?
Well, 282 episodes ago, for the first time ever on this podcast, I mentioned that I loved Wings.
Any specific reason?
Well, it made Tony Shalhoub's career.
Now, wait a second. Hold on a second. I'm going to, argue this point. Because you know what's going to make Tony Shalhoub's career?
What?
The new CNN series coming next month, Tony Shalhoub Breaking Bread. Tony Shalhoub is doing a travel series where he's going to, different bakeries and, discovering the cultural significance of different types of bread.
That sounds like something that somebody just made up.
No, this is dead serious. It begins on October 5th at 9 p.m. on CNN. And, well, I'm sorry. I don't think it's going to be successful. Do you know why, guys?
Why?
This might be the worst joke I've ever done in the history of this show. I'm a non-believer.
Oh, that is terrible.
Oh, hold on. I got to take a look in the Zoom chat to see if Greg's giving me the finger. No, he's all blurry, so no, he's just standing up. And wait, hold on. I think I see it. There's a finger.
Yep, there's
All
the
right.
finger.
No, I'm saying you're number one, Mike.
Yeah, right. Bull crap you are.
They
yeah,
don't know that.
Well, true, but not even joking. This is a real series, and I actually brought to Greg and Chico's attention probably in the last like 4 or 5 days. It was when I was watching Have I Got News for You? They had an ad for it. It's like, I got to let Chico and Greg know about this because this might be like the best thing that CNN's ever done in terms of travel logs. Yeah, they've done it with like Eva Longoria, and they aired Anthony Bourdain for a while. Rest in peace. He'll be the legend. But this might be like the best totally random travel log series CNN has ever done. Hey, let's follow Tony Shalhoub as he goes to different countries and like visits bakeries and tries different breads. And it says here he's going to countries such as Japan, Brazil, France, and Lebanon, which is where his heritage is from. Okay. Sounds interesting enough to get a season pass for me, even if I only watched the first episode and I'm like, no, Wings really did make Tony Shalhoub's career. Not Tony Shalhoub breaking bread.
You better have an episode dedicated to Castella cake, or I'm going to be pissed.
Wait, I got an idea. Now, this is, since you said cake, how about Tony Shalhoub goes down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and he gets a king cake, and he gets the baby, and he starts choking on it or something. Okay, maybe not choking, but somehow he's like chewing into the king cake, and there's like the baby. I think that'd be a great episode. That might be the best episode of any CNN travel log ever. He goes down to Mardi Gras, starts eating a king cake, and then, look, the back half of the king cake baby is sticking out. And Tony Shalhoub is named, Mardi Gras King because of this or whatever.
Oh, that would be perfect. It would be like having Tony Shalhoub as the Mardi Gras King. That would be absolutely amazing. And you know what else would be amazing, Mike?
What's that?
Hold on a second. Okay, hold on a second. I'm waiting for the joke. Okay. Wait, where did I save it? Okay, hold on a second. Okay. What the fuck? Okay. What did I save it as? Okay. Hold on a second. I'm sorry it's taking so long for this joke, but what the fuck? Okay, so cancel.
Apparently, Greg's on a 33.6K modem pulling up this joke.
I'm sorry, dude. It's fucking I've been trying.
Oh, there's no way this makes the show at all.
Okay, no, it's gonna make the show. Fucking wait a second. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, let's do this thing again. Hold on a second. Okay, hold on. All right. Video settings. Okay. And you know who should be on that Tony Shalhoub Breaking Bread show?
Who's that?
Oh, it's in downloads. Duh. This guy.
Ah!
Oh, the king cake baby that was with the New Orleans Pelicans mascot.
Pierre is his name.
He's a creepy MFer. I'm sorry.
The king cake baby, of course he's
talking about Pierre.
Oh no, king cake baby's more creepier than Pierre. What do you think king cake baby's gonna do? Hold on.
Oh no, hold on first. When I was talking about creepy, I was talking about king cake baby, Chico. So me and Greg agree on this. King cake baby is creepy.
Now, what's king cake baby gonna do? Because inside the NBA, I don't know what the hell's going on with them now being at ESPN. They haven't said shit about what's going on. Even Barkley said that. So where are we gonna go for a king cake baby fix?
New Orleans, I gather.
But then we have to wait for a specific time to see king cake baby.
Maybe he's got an Instagram or something where, you can follow him sort of like, Sir CC and Moondog and at least the Cavs mascots.
But it's just going to be King Cake being creepy on there, and I don't want to be on a watch list or something.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing that'll get you put on watch lists nowadays. Oh, yeah, King Cake Baby does have an Instagram page, by the way.
What?
Or wait. Oh, no. No. Hold on.
Oh.
No, it's of a King Cake Baby, but it's not the King Cake Baby. There's a lot of Instagram pages that have King Cake Baby in their names. None of them say anything about King Cake Baby Pelicans official or anything like that, so that's mildly depressing. Oh, hey, we're still talking about rollout, right? Yeah, let's go back here real fast, because we still do have a couple more people worth mentioning that were part of this show. Playing Madame Delacourt, I'm guessing, given her name, Madame Delacourt, and it's in France. Maybe I shouldn't assume, but playing Madame Delacourt is Penny Santon. Better known for movies, she played Velma Stanwyck in Fletch, Mrs. Meeker in Funny Girl, and Mrs. Cepeda in Short Circuit, Greg. I know you love your Short Circuit.
Yes, I do love Short Circuit.
We'll do two more names, and then we're going to get into some episodes. That's how big this cast is. There's like 10 people who are on at least half the episodes, including the next person named Jersey. Again, another birth certificate name. Jersey is Darrow Igus. We may or may not be talking about Darrow Igus in about 3 or 4 weeks, because he was on the SNL, I don't want to say ripoff or copycat, but maybe that's the best way of saying it, the SNL copycat Fridays back in the early 80s. That's going to be a good episode. Just telling you guys that right now. I can tell it's going to be a good one. The last person, and this is another name that is definitely on the birth certificate. This is not a nickname. Playing Phone Booth. I almost wonder if he's like the TARDIS, if he's bigger on the inside now. Never mind. But playing Phone Booth is Rod Gist, or Rod Gist. He's one of those who did a little bit of everything. He was on Hooperman for 14 episodes. He played Rudy, if you remember that from the late 80s. But other than that, and this obviously, he was pretty much on like 1 or 2 episodes of different series. So those are the names of the characters who are on most episodes, at least 7 of the episodes. So with that out of the way, we're going to get to the episodes proper. And we're going to start with the pilot. Red Ball Express is a mobile supply unit in the European war zone with the drivers made up by misfits. When one of the men dies, Sweet learns his request is for a New Orleans-style funeral. His colleagues feel obliged to comply. That seems kind of weird. A New Orleans-style funeral in the middle of war. It definitely does sort of give a feeling of being at home, but just, like I said, seeing like a New Orleans type of gathering in middle of war France, a little bit different there, in my opinion. In an interesting casting move, we did talk about Penny Santon playing Madame Delacourt. In this pilot, we actually have a second person playing Madame Delacourt. So you have Penny Santon, but you also have Fifi Dorsey. There's a really good name if I've ever heard one. Fifi Dorsey. She just did a lot of everything. She did movies. She did TV shows. She's old Hollywood. She goes all the way back to 1929. And it seems like a lot of the stuff she did is of French origin. First movie was They Had to See Paris. Second movie was Hot for Paris. Those 3 French girls. A lot of French stuff going on here. She also played a lot of madams. Just taking a look real fast. On Bewitched, she played a character named Madame Wageir, Wageir, Wageir. On The Lucy Show, she played Madame Fifi. On Combat, she played Madame Fouquet. So apparently she was typecast as that madam on that TV show. That's going to take us to episode 2, which is titled Blues for BJ. Sweet gets a pass for Paris and eagerly anticipates on the fun he'll have. Yeah, I'm guessing Paris might be fun during the war if you try hard enough. I don't know, that seems kind of odd. Episode 3 is titled Dark Victory. Volunteer drivers are needed to transport highly sensitive mortar shells over bad roads. Sweet thinks getting the spot will make him a hero with associated perks, while Jed is concerned over his mortality. We're going to move on to episode 4, which is titled Sunday Sweet Sunday. Corporal Sweet has an ulterior motive when he accepts Jed's invitation to church that isn't very inspirational. Episode 5 is titled Dear Rocco. Wait a second. Alex Rocco's in this series? Stu Gillum, you're never going to make it. Just give up. Maybe? No? Okay. A mishap occurs in the mail delivery, and Rocco's letter from his wife is only half there. Rocco speculates and decides it's a Dear John message, which sends him over the edge. Episode 6 is titled Sweet Millions. Sweet happens on a bag of cash stashed in a tree and claims it under finders keepers. Sweet starts throwing cash around, trying to act a big shot, which gets back to the wrong person. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Now, hold on. We do have a new uh-oh to end in the whole thing. Okay? I got a new uh-oh we're going to be debuting this week, okay? Actually, you know what? If you listen to the Squared Circle Time Machine last week, you've already heard this. Chris Collinsworth, do you have anything you want to say?
Uh-oh.
There's many things I think Chris Collinsworth could say uh-oh about. That'll take us to episode 7, which is titled Members of the Wedding. Wedding bells are about to ring, and Brooks is the groom. His army buddies wonder if his case of nerves indicate that Brooks isn't ready for married bliss. And not kidding, guys, there are like no guest stars in this series. There's a couple in this episode for the wedding, obviously, but nobody of note. So we're going to move on to episode 8, which is titled The Paper Caper. Corporal Williams and his men, due to a turn of events, are turned into unlikely safecrackers. And again, a couple of guests, but nobody worth mentioning, so we're going to move on to episode 9, No Wages, All Fear. Low-key Jed is fed up with roommate Sweet's exuberant and shady ways, so he moves out. Sweet is lost without his pal and tries to persuade Jed that he will change. Again, nobody in that episode in terms of prominent guests. So we'll get to episode 10, which is timely. This aired on December 21st, 1973, and is titled The Christmas of 44. The men are downcast as they are faced with the holidays occurring in the war zone away from their families. A French boys' choir arrives to sing for them, which lifts their spirits. Again, nobody of note in terms of guest stars, so we'll just move on to episode 11, which is titled Honor Truck. When Sweet realizes that the winner of Honor Truck will win a pass to Paris, nothing, including fair play, will stop him from winning. No surprise, no guests there, so we're going to move to the final episode. Didn't he ramble? Corporal Sweet sprains his ankle and plays up his injury. The medical personnel take it seriously, and Sweet hears talk of an honorable discharge. His joy in his future causes jealousy among Sweet's buddies, which could ruin everything. And believe it or not, that's 12 episodes. Like I said, no guest stars at all on this series who are worth mentioning. You obviously had a few with the wedding and the French boys' choir, but this is like just absolutely devoid of any sort of guest stars. We could be here a while talking about what happened because, oh boy, was there a lot that happened. I think first and foremost, we'll talk about the ratings, and we actually talked about this on the new Perry Mason. I think that was about a month ago or so. We talked about the ratings, and we said that for the 1973-74 season, the new Perry Mason was rated 71st out of 80 shows. And I do believe in that episode we did mention that Rollout was absolutely at the bottom, 80th out of 80. That's not going to get you renewed. But there's even more. I found 2 articles, and we'll start with this one first. This isn't the best one, but I'm saving the best for last. Not even going to lie. Mel Stewart, he was actually indicted in Cuyahoga County Court, which is city of Cleveland, for potentially raping a 16-year-old girl. And this was while Rollout was on the air. It was about 2.5 weeks before the final episode. It was middle of December of 1973, but yeah, he ended up going to trial, and I could not find any closure as to what happened. But yeah, that's not good if one of your, not necessarily leads, but one of your supporting actors does something like that. No good. But you want to know what's even worse? How about, and I'm not even joking about this, how about the star of your show getting arrested for swinging an axe in a restaurant?
Oh my God.
Greg, I know you've heard this because this has been mentioned on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, and I'm sure it's going to be mentioned soon enough on Fun for All Ages, the new podcast with Frank Santo Padre. What happened is Stu Gillum, he was at a restaurant in Los Angeles, and he got a little upset with specifically the waiter. And the waiter's name, not that it necessarily matters, but the waiter was named Fausto Reynard. That's not the important part of this. The waiter or the axe or the restaurant, or at least until I tell you whose restaurant it was. This is not a joke. The restaurant in question was Alan Hale's Lobster Barrel Restaurant. Yes, a restaurant owned by the skipper.
Skipper!
And again, Gilbert Gottfried and Frank Sancho Padre in the past have gotten into great detail about this. And I think it was even mentioned that Stu Gillum went after Alan Hale with the axe in the restaurant. And this happened late September of 1973. So this is literally like 4 weeks into the show's run. And he goes to Alan Hale's Lobster House and swings this axe and gets the police called. And again, details are a little bit iffy, but just Stu Gillum doing this at Alan Hale's restaurant. You can't make this up.
To quote Adam West, that sounds like wonderful fun.
Oh my God.
And actually, the story that I see here, it says that the axe was wrested away from Stu Gillum by Alan Hale himself. So it wasn't the police took the axe out of his hand. It wasn't the waiter, Fausto Reynard or whoever it was, that took the axe out of his hand. It was Alan Hale Jr. himself.
I know I shouldn't be laughing, but all of this is just surreal.
I think you've got to laugh because it's just that unexpectedly funny. And again, if you ever hear Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, when they talk about it, and I've heard it, I think at least twice, it's funny. I mean, it's kind of tragically funny because, Alan Hale was being assaulted with an axe by this guy who was starring on a TV show at this point. And the reason for the dispute was over reservations. I'm not touching that with a forklift because that could go all sorts of ways. But Alan Hale apparently fought off Stu Gillum wielding an axe because whatever. His reservation got lost or who knows. Only on this podcast and Gilbert Gottfried and Frank Santopadre's podcast would you hear about an incident as wacky as this. We do our research. Can't say we don't. But also, in addition to this incident, which really did put the series in jeopardy, beyond the ratings, we got to take a look at the schedule. Rollout aired on Friday nights at 8:30 p.m. And just taking a look at the Friday night lineup, at least at this point in 1973, all I'm going to say is wow. You had Rollout at 8:30, as I said. At least for the premiere, they showed the movie Dracula at 9, but there was something called Colucci's Department on at 8 p.m. Joe Colucci is a kind-hearted office supervisor working for the New York State Unemployment Department, and weekly he must deal with his frustrations with his girlfriend, employees, bureaucracy brass, and the unemployed coming to his department seeking help. Starred James Coco, Candy Azara, and in one episode, I gotta see if this is the person's first appearance on anything, because she would have been darn young at this point. Susan Sarandon. It was a young Susan Sarandon, but it wasn't her first role. 1970 was her first role, and this would have been 73. And it looks like it was her 7th role. Getting back to the schedule, though, since we talked about what Colucci's department is. On NBC, it went up against former entry, The Girl with Something Extra. But on ABC, well, you may be beating this because the ratings weren't necessarily spectacular for this show, even though it did last 5 seasons. But it's become one of the absolute classic comedies in television history. Are you really beating The Odd Couple? Potentially. Like I said, the ratings weren't that great. But it's, again, a timeless TV show. And really, CBS is not winning this night between Colucci's Department, Rollout, and the movie, because you had Sanford and Son on at 8 p.m. on NBC. You had Dean Martin at 10. You had Love American Style, final season, I do believe, at 10 on ABC. Room 222 at 9 p.m. We said 8:30 was The Odd Couple. But at 8 p.m., you had a little show called The Brady Bunch. I don't think CBS is winning anything that night. If you're looking for this TV show, I do have good news. It does appear that most, if not all, 12 episodes are on YouTube. So, as always, watch it, make your own judgment. I didn't care for it. I saw some of this show earlier today, and I don't want to say it didn't jive with me, but it's no MASH.
Well, I see where they were trying to go with the whole MASH oeuvre, like the whole tone, like they wanted tone shifts and snappy comebacks and all of that stuff. And then you're all supposed to learn something about the nature of humanity and what it means to be, I don't know, a person of color in the line of fire doing your bit for world peace. I think that's what Larry Gelbart was going for.
Oh, you mean the same person who created and produced MASH? Go figure. I wonder where they got the inspiration from. It should also be noted that after Rollout got canceled, the show that replaced it, it did pretty successful. little show called Good Times. So what can we say about Rollout? CBS wanted to make it an alternative to MASH. It could have worked. But again, the ratings were absolutely horrible. The shows and stuff it was up with on CBS on Friday nights were horrible. And you had one cast member accused of rape, and you had another cast member getting into a fight with the skipper. Combine all this together, and you've got one really disastrous thing on TV. You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
We're revisiting one of our classic shows. We covered this show all the way back, I think, in early 2020. At the time we reviewed it back in 2020, we didn't necessarily have all the episodes available to watch. Now we do. So we figured this would be perfect to go back and revisit. We'll make our move next time right here, and It Was a Thing on TV. How'd you like that, Mike?
I loved it, but there's one thing you're missing.
What?
I wanted to hear more about the dregs of humanity and how we're going to bring that up next week.
We're not going to be doing too good on that, Mike.
Oh.
But until then, I'm Greg. That was Mike. And that was Chico. And we'll be back here when we make our move on this podcast next week. Thank you ever so much for listening. Be kind to each other. We'll see you with that episode next time. Wow!
On the next rollout, is there a circus going on?
This is the real me, you savage. Is that what you want?
A letter from Captain Cavelli's wife drives the captain berserk and turns the company upside down.
Gentlemen, it looks like the captain has really flipped his key ante court. Let's not go crazy.
Is the captain going crazy? Is he headed for destruction? Don't miss the startling conclusion on the next rollout at 8:30 p.m. Eastern.